Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight on this lovely Thursday evening. We hope that it's going to be a bit of a change to sitting in front of the TV and watching something boring. We're going to chat with the legendary Phil from Octopus Energy. He is the Future Technology Evangelist for Octopus Energy, which sounds a very intriguing title, but it sounds like you're the big geek that knows everything about everything within Octopus. Is that a fair assessment?
I'd strongly claim to know absolutely everything, but I guess I get involved in an awful lot of things, and I do interact with an awful lot of customers on a lot of our really new stuff. I mean, obviously that title of Future Technologies Evangelist does mean I'm looking at the future tech and the experimental tech and the innovation tech, and of course it's that sort of tech which tends to probably have more issues than the live stuff that's been around for a year or so, and so I get quite involved with customers on whether it's the tariff related stuff like Agile or export tariffs when we launched that a year and a bit ago, or people playing with if this then that, or the Alexa device. I can't say Alexa too often because she'll interrupt me and start playing the radio
as well. Yeah, good stuff. So we'll try not to reference Agile too much at the moment because I think it's a bit of a nervousness between some of our owners that are currently on it. But I'm sure we'll touch on that at one point. Before we do get started fully, I just want to quickly mention our charity of the year, Mind, which is a mental health charity. So if anyone finds these sort of events useful and wants to support them, then jump on justgiving.com/Tesla Owners UK, chuck a few quid in there. It's a great charity. We're all affected by mental health, regardless of how much you've got in your bank account or what car you drive. So research them, look on their website, and also donate, please, if you can. That'd be great. And also to thank Octopus Energy as one of our key partners. This event isn't designed to be a sales event. It's really designed to be chatting with Phil and learning from his expertise. But Octopus Energy do support the club, and there's also a £70 sort of referral discount, as it were, for our members. So that's all on the website. So if you're not an Octopus Energy customer, go and research that and find out more. So Phil, what's the best smart home technology in your own house?
Actually, you know what? My children and I get quite engaged with the Amazon device. I call it the Amazon device because I will set it off. It was probably one of the first things actually we connected to the Agile tariff. I know we're going to end up talking about Agile prices, but it's one of the first things that we actually connected to it through the API that we published. So you can ask it, what's the price of electricity now? What's the price going to be at a certain time? What's the lowest rate? What's the highest rate? And it also gives things like carbon intensity as well. So I don't know if you're familiar with the carbon intensity service, but there's a website called carbonintensity.org that shows how green the grid is by region as well as nationally. And that's the level of grams of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour that's being consumed throughout the day. And there's a 3-day forecast, and you've got all the historic data as well. So it's actually quite an interesting source just to see how green or not the grid is at any time. So when that's connected through the Amazon device as well.
Got you. Yeah, it sounds interesting. There's various apps I think I've used over the years and websites as well, but to tie that actually in directly to your software is pretty awesome. Yeah, cool. And what did you do? Sort of brief history before joining Octopus. How did you get involved in this space?
Yes, I mean, when I left university, the first thing that I did was join a graduate scheme with O2, or at the time then it was called Cellnet. That was even before it was called BT Cellnet. So it's going back quite a few years. So my first 9 years were actually all telco related rather than energy. But that meant I got a really strong grounding in all IT infrastructure, radio connectivity, and all that aspect, and the kind of the customer care side of things of how a mobile operator supports customers, tariffs and things. So kind of similarity there, and that it was a service industry. We spent a few years in Canada, working into the telco industry as well. And then I got involved in mobile advertising and startups whilst out there before coming back. And in fact, we spent a couple of years in France involved in startups in mobile advertising there as well. And then I kind of got the startup bug from being involved in those and started my own startup in smart home technology about 6 years ago or so. And we built a smart home hub that connects to thermostats and light bulbs and sensors and Amazon as well, actually. And so that startup gave me a strong interest in energy, because a lot of smart home technology is focused on making your homes efficient with smart thermostats and things like this. So we were really early days on that, even before Hive was around. And then I got invited to Octopus's hackathon in May 2018, I think it was. So one of the companies participated in that, and of course Rebecca and Greg, both on the last call in December, got really excited with what I was doing, and so enticed me across and effectively acquired me and the technology to actually look at what we can do with smart home tech in an energy industry. And that's where we first started using things like If This Then That and the Amazon device to help customers on smart tariffs like Agile and Go make the best of the tariff with appliances in the home.
Okay, got you. Yeah, a bit of a change, but it sounds like you came to a good team. Can you give users of the Tesla Energy Plan access to smart meter live data for import and export in maybe an app, something like Samsung Smart Energy? Is that?
Yeah. So I mean, anybody who has a smart home, a smart meter installed, will receive an in-home display. So that's the small gadget. And on that, you can view the input data and you can view the export data and things. As an energy supplier, we get the half-hour smart meter data overnight. And of course, that's not the real-time data. And it's only the half-hour data that we get. And we use that for the billing purposes and things. To get access to the real-time data, you need a device that's connected via an app of some sort. And there are a few devices around. That Hildebrand have got one. It's a consumer access device, a CAD, and that acts as a bridge between the Zigbee home area network and the internet in order to give you an app experience to access that real-time data. There will probably be more of those sorts of apps and consumer access devices connected to smart meters over time. So we just got to kind of watch those mature and come to market a little bit more. Make those more popular.
Got you. Perfect. And one question which is quite funny, really, is that someone is asking, why do you have so many ludicrous number of tariffs?
Well, I mean, some of it's that's history. I mean, the three main tariffs we got are the fixed, the flexible, and the super green. Super green applies more to the gas tariff, but those are the three main tariffs. And then we've got Go, Agile, and there's the Tesla tariff. So I mean, the starting point is those three tariffs. But as we've acquired business like Co-op and Effect and so on, then you start to see that some of those tariffs still exist on the platform. And in fact, we still, obviously operate the Co-op Energy brand, the London Power brand, M&S as well. So those tariffs are all visible and accessible to customers as well. Maybe some people are referring to the Go Faster, because there's something like, I think it's 18 variants of Go. So Go Faster started off as a research tariff, and it's become quite popular recently with the Agile prices being a little bit higher than normal. But what Go Faster does is offer customers either a 3-hour go period or a 4-hour or a 5-hour go period. And to start that 3, 4, 5-hour period, either 8:30 or 9:30 or 10:30 and so on in the morning through to 1:30. Now we set it up actually as a research tariff because what we wanted to do was see how we could encourage customers, mainly EV drivers, to balance when energy is being consumed by using these different flavors of the Go tariff. So I mean, if you imagine everybody with an EV on the Go tariff at 12:30, 12:30 turns on their car starts to charge. We're putting a large stress on the grid as all of those cars appear. And that's, I think Ofgem, Base, and all the energy suppliers are all looking at how the grid is used in a not in a fair way, it's the wrong term, but it's in a smooth way. Because when you start to put spikes of demand on it, that's when you start to cause stress with generators having to react to it. So with Go Faster, we also suggested to customers, we might move you around in order to balance it out. So I don't want everybody to have the 8:30 slots. And so it's an invite tariff, and there's terms and conditions that says we may move you around onto another tariff within an hour or so of the one that you selected, because we actually want to try and balance them all out over the time. So we're still offering that Go Faster tariff now, even though the research part of it has finished with UKPN. And there'll be a report out sometime in the next few months on that, and you can see some of the findings of what we found on it. But it actually worked. And we did see, even when we started suggesting customers move from one tariff to another, that 70–80% of customers were ready to be moved because they were engaged in what we were trying to do with smoothing out the grid. I think that answers the question. There is quite a lot of tariffs, yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, one person just asked, what were those 3 main tariffs again?
So it's the flexible one. So that changes every month. It's tracked against the wholesale market. Fixed 12 months, so you get a fixed price, and that is it. It's fixed for a full 12-month period. And then super green, which has an additional premium in order to offset the gas element of to make it a green tariff. So there's an extra gas offset on that one there. So that super green one only affects the gas. The electricity price is the same as the 12-month fixed.
Got you. And are we able to alter between tariffs easily? Do we have to have a smart meter for that? How does swapping of tariffs work?
Yeah. So we published something recently on the blog page about what we refer to as the 30-day rule. And one of the things that we should be concerned about, and it messes with the hedging of tariffs and the buying of energy and things, is when customers switch between the tariffs too frequently, particularly between Go Faster and Agile. So we didn't want to penalize people and say, you've got to stay on the tariff for a month or 6 months or a year, because we don't do any kind of lock-ins or anything like that. So you can always switch away from a tariff that's not working for you. But we have said is that you can, if you want to change from one smart tariff to another, you have to have been on the previous smart tariff for at least 30 days before you switch. And that's actually working reasonably well. And that is required between all of the Go Faster tariffs and Go and Agile as well. And I think, we saw quite a few people trying to do it to start with. We explained it and said, look, we don't really like this frequent switching. And people got it and have been accepted. And if you look on, say, some of the Facebook groups, there's an Agile chat for runs it, extremely popular. And a lot of people really understand what we're trying to do with the tariffs. And when I started posting on there about the 30-day rule, I was expecting quite a lot of kickback. You know what Facebook could be like sometimes? It's like an echo chamber. It either will go one way, or will go the other way. And actually, everybody's very supportive of it and gets it and knows what we're trying to achieve with these smart tariffs. It hasn't caused a particular issue.
Got you. Perfect. Yeah. And do you see a future where the universal uptake of EVs can be organized as a group together with that stored power to help with the peak demands? I mean, it's always been discussed, but do you realistically see that as a thing?
Yeah, there's a few trends that are kind of underway at the moment. So if you've got an EV charger, it may or may not have an app and some level of smart control that goes with it. And if that charger's got an API, then there's companies like the charging cable have used to take the best slots and to charge that car. There's discussion and research at the moment with Bayes and Ofgem about whether the smart element of a EV charger should go through the smart meter or not. Now, the theory there is that if you put it through the smart meter, then you can start to mandate that all chargers are smart in order to be able to apply some sort of controls for balancing. My perspective on that is that that's kind of a bit of a command and control, centralized decision-making sort of methodology or process. You're dictating and saying we need to control the charges. Whereas actually, I think if you engage customers through smart tariffs and things, you're offering price incentives to use energy at the best times of day. It's just like train tickets, off-peak, peak, off-peak, super off-peak, tone. I need a super off-peak. I'm quite happy I travel up to 10 a.m. Or, yeah, I've got to be in the office early. I'll go for the peak tickets and so on. And it's kind of taking that into the energy industry rather than mandating it through the technology.
Got you, got you. And obviously, lots of our members are interested in renewable energy and also getting away from gas. There are quite a few people that have moved to either air source or ground source heat pumps. Do you have any upcoming plans or any discussions or thoughts on those and how that can be better integrated with Octopus?
Yeah, on the last call that we did with Greg and Rebecca as well, we talked about air source heat pumps a bit, and we're doing a bit of a trial and some experiments and things. And a few of the customers that contacted us last time, we've been in touch to talk about that and to arrange some trials and things on that, because I think getting to electrified heat is pretty important for us. You know, we're going to see fewer gas boilers installed and the decisions that government's making around the end of gas boilers in new build and things. And with the technology and things like time use tariffs, then we could probably make air source heat pumps not close to parity if we can to the costs per kilowatt of energy. I mean, you look at an air source heat pump and it can generate 3 to 4 times. If it, you know, the COP is 3 to 4 times. So if you put a kilowatt of electricity into it, you'll get the equivalent of 3 or 4 kilowatts of heating energy out of it. So I mean, and the technology is evolving quite a lot. So really excited to see what we can do with heat pumps. Yeah.
Cool, got you. And where do you see Octopus in the UK market going forward?
In what sense? How do you mean?
So the question was whether it was heading towards more B2B stuff, D2C supplier. Someone said example Kraken.
Yeah, so Kraken is the IT platform that James Edison and Greg and the core executive team have created from scratch, and it's becoming such an amazing platform that the Octopus Energy brand sits on top of. Obviously, we licensed that to E.ON and npower and to Good Energy, and there's now the deal with Origin in Australia and Tokyo Gas as well that's come up. But I mean, this is probably more of a Greg question strategically, whether we are more B2B or more B2C in the UK. I don't see a difference. I think both of them are equally as strong and likely in the UK.
Got you. Perfect. Can you discuss whether there's any influence from Octopus's side on the Tesla tariff and the Powerwall? Lots of people want more ability to control it. Is that something that the Tesla system can do?
Yeah, it's come up a few times. I know that there is APIs into the Powerwall, but not official ones, and we haven't touched those. And there isn't an agreement with Tesla at the moment to be able to do more time use type tariffs against that. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, you either offer a time use tariff, and those that are having to cope with 35 pence peak on Agile at the moment, your upside is when we have negative rates, or often it's below 10 pence, and it balances out. Whereas the Tesla tariff at 8 pence import, 8 pence export is a very good rate, and then the balancing is taken care of by Tesla's system against our input, using similar sort of wholesale curve as we use for Agile. And then there's the 11p version as well. If you haven't got a Tesla car, but you've got a Powerwall, so that's allowing control of the Powerwall to balance the grid with that. You know, it's just a question of what are customers more comfortable with: a time use tariff, and it's like watching the clock all the time, or okay, it's a flat rate. It doesn't matter what time I use it, but the battery is going to balance me out according to wholesale rates instead. I think we've still got to kind of give it time to learn the experience of both of those, because the volumes aren't huge on them. I saw there were some questions about the volumes coming up there. We haven't published any numbers on Go Faster, Agile, or anything, or on Tesla tariff, but it's the kind of tens of thousands of customers. It's not past 100,000 customers. So this is still fairly new stuff, but it's so engaging and interesting that I think it's the direction we need to be going in, because that's how you get away from this kind of centralized command and control. We're going to control EV chargers and be able to remotely control them, versus actually will engage you in energy in that way.
Got it. And is there any scope or interest from Octopus to go down the charging network route for chargers, or either on the road or on someone's driveway? Yeah,
and we've got the electric juice network, so you can get an EJN card, and that's got partnerships with several of the networks. So that as a kind of an access to those networks is actually proven really popular. And it means then you can put your charging costs straight back onto your Octopus Energy bill. I actually don't know if we're going to have our own charging network. I just saw that question pop up there. I haven't been party to any of those sorts of conversations. So if there is, it's news to me, but I'm not involved in absolutely everything in Octopus. We're quite a large organization. There's a lot of business divisions, a lot going on. But the electric juice network is actually the principal one to look at, and is very popular at the moment.
Got you. So if anyone has any other questions throughout the session, please feel free to throw it into chat. We've got quite a few built up, but yeah, if you've got a dying question for Phil, then please fire away. Do you think air source heat pumps are cost effective in cold areas like Scotland? I don't know how much you know about them, but that was one of the questions that's come through.
Yeah, I mean, they are designed to cope with lower temperatures, but they obviously do get less efficient as you drop down to cooler temperatures. I don't know the precise details of what temperature they'll cope at and what the COP changes to, but over time, I expect the technology will keep improving to better cope with cooler sorts of temperatures. It may be that it requires a little bit more upgrading on pipework and radiators and things. So when a heat pump runs at a lower temperature, then a larger radiator gives off the equivalent amount of joules of heat of a small radiator at a higher temperature. But I know there's a lot changing with the technology, so we'll see.
And is there any scope in the future for Octopus Energy customers to be able to download their data? It might even be a thing already. People wanted to maybe download it all, export it, and then work out exactly whether they could save on another tariff within Octopus or maybe on a third party.
Yep. So all of our smart meter tariffs can be connected via the API. So developer.octopus.energy, it's really simple URL, describes the developer API. And if a customer goes into their account, goes to my settings, and then the developer page, they can see the details of how to access that API. That API gives access to the full half-hour data per day, going right back to the beginning. And there's some blog articles, so Octopus Energy /blog, where I've written about all sorts of third-party apps and tools and systems and things that are connected to that API that give you really interesting ways of engaging it. So there's Energy Stats UK. Guy Littman is really popular. He's got some great tools and analysis and things. So there's loads of tools that third parties, that individuals created. I also run a forum, so our own forum.octopus.energy, where there's a lot of customers discussing the use of that API and all these sorts of tools and analysis and things like this. So that's quite a cool, useful resource too.
Yeah, that's good to know. With most EV owners, they get a bill at the end of the month telling them how much energy they've used. Unless they've got some form of smart metering or API access, all they know is the bill and how many kilowatt hours they've used in the month. How do you see that changing in the future? Is there a better way for our customers to be able to say, it cost me X for my electric car this month? Is there any way to break that data down?
Not yet, but I think if you combine the data that we've got and maybe disaggregation type products, then you can start to get a better breakdown. There's a product from a VoltAware that we're just doing some experiments with. It's a VOLT aware, AWARE, VoltAware. It's a CT clamp device, which anybody with a Powerwall will be familiar with, because those use CT clamps as well. And it can detect the signature of electrical appliances in the home, so fridges, freezers, dishwashers, washing machines, cooking, and all the rest of it. And that's actually quite interesting to see that kind of breakdown of energy consumption. They'll even do kind of alerts when an appliance appears to be using more energy than it might normally. Say a fridge or a freezer is starting to over-consume energy. So perhaps is there something wrong with it, or a dishwasher profile is changing because the heating element has failed, for example, or something.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty. So it literally just clamps onto the CT clamp, and then that's it.
Yeah, it's a small device normally mounted inside the fuse board. It fits on the DIN rail CT clamp that goes around the main supply into the fuse board, and then there's connects over Wi-Fi, and it's got a lap that goes with it, and gives you that kind of breakdown. And it's live. It's kind of live data. So if I turn the kettle on, I see it that the needle swings straight up to 2.5 kilowatts.
Got it. Someone on the forum requires an invite from an existing member. Presumably, we can maybe set up a way for people to gain access.
We've got the TOG email address. I receive those and I send out the invites. So as soon as I get those invites, it takes us a minute to invite somebody.
So that's for those that's not aware, it's tog@octopus.energy. If you send a message there, that will come through to Phil and various other members of the team as well. So cool, that sounds good. With Agile prices being so high at the moment, how can members manage our usage? There's the simple question.
Yeah. I mean, let's answer the question about Agile rates. So I've been hitting 35 pence quite frequently. And in fact, I've noticed actually Greg's been twittering with Martin Dews and others on Twitter this evening already about the Agile rates and things. I mean, at the moment on the wholesale market, we're seeing quite a drop in wind generation and in solar generation. Gas rates are really high, and gas is used for quite a large amount of electricity generation, so that's being passed on to the wholesale market. So it's causing the Agile rates to be pretty high. If you've got a power, you can probably ride out some of those 35 pence peak periods. I think perhaps also over the last year, particularly during lockdown, we've had a large number of negative periods on Agile, as well as pretty good low rates and people achieving below 10 pence average. And perhaps we've kind of got ourselves into this clip that I'll always get average of 10 pence. Average 10 pence over 12 months, you will get high days as well as the low days. And we're probably in an extended low period. There's some nuclear power stations offline. There's an interconnect to, I think it's either the Netherlands or Belgium, that's constrained at the moment. There's a technical fault that's reduced its capacity, as well as the gas prices, as well as the solar. It's a whole set of factors that are all affecting rates. Colder weather, all the snow that's going on where you are and others and things means there's a lot more demand going on the grid. So I mean, the only way it really is, use the Powerwall when we've got cheap rates still overnight and things in order to ride out the 35 pence. Of course, what is also happening, and there's no issue with this, is the export rate has been incredible. I think we've hit the highest I've ever seen on export. When we had the beast from the east in March 2018, I still got the statistics somewhere. If we had export at the time, which we didn't at that time, we would have paid about 36 pence per kilowatt hour. Yesterday, we hit £1.52 per kilowatt hour on export in one region of the UK. It was somewhere between 147 and 152 because it varies across the country, each GSP region. And I think again we were at about 140 today as well. So charging at 35 pence to export at 150 is pretty awesome if you can. But of course, you've got to discharge between 4 and 7 when we're also all cooking dinner and lighting's on, and I think my children are in the other room with laptops on watching this live stream and so on. So I may be able to export normally at a rate of say 4 or 5 kilowatts, but if half of that's been consumed by the house, how much can I actually get out?
Yeah. And is there a way for owners to predict the Agile pricing going, next week or the week after, to do a bit of planning?
Yeah, not really. There are some that have created some tools. Guy Littman and Mick Wall, Energy Stats UK, and a few others have started to try and do it with some level of accuracy. Earlier in the year, they were doing pretty well, kind of 70-80%. At the moment, the accuracy level is pretty low on their forecasts. That the Agile price is purely dependent on the day ahead market that's published around about 4 p.m. every evening for the 11 p.m. to 11 p.m. slot. So we haven't really looked yet at providing our own 3 or 4 day forecast, but there are other individuals, people that are doing it and trying to provide it, and doing pretty good at it. And it's useful to see those sorts of things. That's what innovation is all about: is playing with data and sources of data and engaging with it and seeing what we can do.
Yeah. And now I don't know what this is, so I apologize, but how are we closer to grid black or brown outages?
Not yet. So the National Grid will send out the electricity margin notices, which we had back in November once or twice. We had them when there was too much energy on the grid and they were threatening to curtail wind generation. And then we also had it in November when we did the big switch off event because the grid wanted to pay coal stations 10 times the normal rate. So I haven't seen an electricity margin notice coming out recently. It seems to be we're okay at the moment, but I mean it's always a risk. It could occur.
And could you just give a bit of more information on what that means, black or brown outage?
I think probably what the Bruce is referring to there is brown outage. You get partial outage in certain areas. The constraint can vary all across the UK. Black would be kind of much more major across the whole of the country. So I think that's the difference between those two.
Okay, got it. Perfect. So, and again, another question sort of about the controlling of the Powerwall, which we may have already answered, but someone says it would be good to be able to export from the Powerwall at will to support the network at those peak times if we choose to, and obviously get paid for it. So I guess it's another plea, I guess, really for you guys to speak with Tesla and see if that's possible.
A Tesla listening. I will keep taking it back to Tesla. I know that Tesla do quite well, so yes.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Have you seen much vehicle to grid stuff in what you work on, and how many people are really interested in that, do you think? And are also the companies behind the cars actually that interested?
So there is a competing car manufacturer beginning with an N that has a V2G capable car. That's pretty much the only one at the moment. That's running under our Powerloop program. So Powerloop is our vehicle to grid export trial project. We've just actually launched that only the last couple of weeks. We've got the first few customers that have got those vehicles and are starting to use the app to program when they want the car to charge, and they don't actually program when to discharge, but instead the technology takes control of that and decides, okay, we'll use the car to supply to the home of the grid sometime overnight between about 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. And the way we've designed Powerloop is that customers then get rewarded per month for being available to the grid at least 12 times through the month. So the service is tracking when the cars are plugged in and when they're unplugged, and then ensuring if they're plugged in over that time period, then they get their reward for being available to the grid and so on. I kind of like to see a lot more vehicle to grid. It's a really good technology. It's you're driving a battery, you could be charging it elsewhere, you could be supporting the grid in different locations and things. So I think that technology is going to grow and come. I don't know, before anybody asks, if Tesla are doing vehicle to grid. I haven't heard yet.
Perfect. So touching on some of the other products that you've been involved with, for instance, if this then that, can you explain maybe how that works and what sort of some good use cases might be for that?
If this then that, it's a really interesting company from the States. I love what they're doing as a rules engine. It connects all sorts of different services and apps and devices and things together. So as it says on the tin, then I want something else to happen, and you can chain things together and say if I want several things to happen, or if there are other conditions as well. It works off what's called applets, and each applet is the kind of a rule routine that you've set up. It has an input, which is a trigger, and then an output device of some sort. So we created a set of triggers. So if the price falls below a value, or is higher than a value, or if it's lower than a particular value for 3.5 hours, or for the best 3 hours of the day, and then whatever is connected to that. So whether it's heating systems like the Tallow thermostats or Hive heating system, or if there are any EV chargers that are on the IFT platform, then you can connect into that, so you can use the best half hour. So it's a similar concept to how OMI charging cable takes the tariff and can program a car to charge on the best sets of half hours and things. Got it. Yeah, there's I can see the comments coming up on IFT, and we have kind of maybe caused a bit of an issue with their Pro offer. And of course, it's not a secret that companies like us pay to be on the platform as well. So they are kind of double dipping by charging both the companies that are on the platform and customers to use the Pro service. So I've not really discussed that issue with IF themselves yet, but if customers ask me and say, I'm missing an applet that does this, I can go in and publish extra applets to try and kind of alleviate the need for Pro when we can.
Right. Yeah, because it was originally free, wasn't it, for consumers, and then you're only allowed a certain amount of them, or something like that. Yeah, someone's saying they used to get their Tesla to flash their lights when Elon tweeted when using IFT.
Cool.
Going back to meters, when will the WAN gaps be closed on those, do you think?
Yeah, so the DCC has an obligation, I think it's about a 90-day obligation to address any WAN issues when we try and install the smart meter and we just can't do it. So we'll always raise those with DCC, but 3 months can be quite a long time waiting for a gap to be closed. But we completely depend on the DCC, so it's the their dependency on the O2 network in the south and the centre, and on the Arqiva network up in the north. It's kind of frustrating when that happens, because I think we've actually created the kind of demand for smart meters through smart tariffs. When you look previously at how smart meters were being promoted, it was all about easy switching, no longer estimated bills, and it wasn't really enough to engage you. And so I think there's some level of being turned off at getting a smart meter. Now with us being able to offer smart tariffs and things, then obviously we're driving demand for smart meters. So to then find that there's coverage issues and things is really frustrating. One way around it is mesh. So there are some meters which will hop from one meter to another to try and get some coverage. But you can only hop so far and so many hops for that sort of technology to work. So we need to keep pushing the DCC to improve the network connection for WAN.
And do you think there's any scope in the future for a Wi-Fi bot?
No, unlikely.
Why?
Well, the smart meter data it's both the level of accuracy and the reliance for us for billing customers, but also it goes into what's called settlement, which is the process by which the whole industry recognized energy has been consumed and charges the suppliers for that energy consumption. So the connectivity and how that data is transferred from the meter is important. So that's all down to these decisions on the network bearers that it uses, and hence it's just selected O2 and the Arqiva network to do that. So even where customers have asked, can we have, I've got a decent Wi-Fi connection, we just can't change a meter onto that Wi-Fi connection. It's not possible.
Okay, got you. Someone is thinking of a career in Octopus. What advice would you give them?
We're a very entrepreneurial sort of organization, and Greg comes up with stories of how people have been hired. There was a brilliant example that he shared, and it was on the BBC News a couple of weeks ago. One of our ops staff, she was fired by Lloyds Bank for going above and beyond in the level of support that she was giving to a particular customer. And you kind of look at the story and you think, wow, she went way over what she really needed to do. She was so supportive of a particular customer, somebody who's gradually losing their eyesight, needed help with their post and things and with bills and things like this. And you look at it and you go, wow, she did the right thing. But Lloyd's investigated and let her go. And Greg read the story and hired her. And other people have contacted us in particular ways and stuff and come up with something. And employees could come from anywhere.
Yeah, fair enough. So for yourself and the team that you work with, are you all on Macs? Are you Windows? How does that work?
It's a mixture. There's not a consistent IT policy in particular. I'm on a Mac. A lot of the ops staff are on Windows laptops. But we've got all security software on here and things and authentication processes. And all that kind of security stuff that you need to have when dealing with energy bills and data and things like this. But,
Got you. And what language do you use primarily, Octopus?
You mean programming language?
Yeah.
Python. Python is the common software.
And can you give a bit more information of sort of your day-to-day stuff, what you do, every day? How does that work?
Yeah. It's a hectic day. I spend an awful lot of time sat here on video calls with people. So one of the first things actually I do, first thing that I get up is look at customer issues that have come in. So we've got a software tool that all messages come in, and that's probably the first place that I go, is just to see what sort of customer issues have come in that I want to deal with. And that will be people changing to Go Faster. Those that are on Go Faster were familiar that I send out the invites and set those up. Customers have got queries about solar battery installation systems, export tariffs, and things. And some of the ops staff will escalate particularly difficult conversations to me. So when we had the Tesla Powerwall compatibility issue with LNG meters, then I took that and said, right, let's investigate that, and then support all those customers going through it. So I spent a lot of time doing customer support first thing in the morning, and that's actually quite important. That I think from Greg down, all of us are interacting with customers, because it means we're all so familiar with the sorts of things customers engaging with us for, rather than sitting in a top suite or whatever and not involved in that customer aspect. But then I spend a lot of time talking to all sorts of interesting technology providers. So whether it's Voltaware that I mentioned, or other battery solar systems or EV charging companies or whatever, about what they're doing and how they might be using our API, or the sorts of products and research that they're coming up with, or what else we might do with tariffs and things. So, exploring a lot of that technology. So that's my kind of day. A lot of calls.
Fair enough. And do you see a future where domestic customers can buy and sell kilowatt hours from a domestic battery storage, whether that's local or run by you guys or the national grid?
That sounds like it's a question more about, was it domestic battery storage like a Powerwall, or more of a kind of a large scale battery that's co-located with renewable energy? The thing is, batteries, you're kind of getting both scenarios at the moment. So if you've got a large wind array or solar array, it's kind of really tempting to put in a large scale battery next to it, and actually store that wind generation or that solar generation to export it when the wholesale price is a little bit more keen to your advantage. So there's this potential in both. What I like about a home battery is that if you've got solar on your property, you can buy at low rates. Once you've stored that energy, there are no network charges that go with using it. Whereas if you've got a large scale battery next to wind, say, and maybe as a homeowner you've got shares in that battery or whatever, even though you might have a relationship of some sort with that battery at the moment, to get that electricity from that battery through to your home still goes through all the network distribution transportation charges, which means we've got to charge you at normal grid rates, even if it's been generated from a wind generator 2 miles away and a battery's only a couple of miles away. I kind of use the analogy of underground. If you get on the tube in London, you pay a ticket to get zone 1 to zone 1 or zone 1 to zone 2, and so on. And there's a difference in price to go according to the zones that you're crossing. That doesn't exist in the energy industry. So if I've got a renewable source nearby, the energy coming from that may have taken a shorter route and cost less to get to me, but I'm still paying the same rate as somebody that's 20 miles away from it.
Got you. Perfect. He's coming with a slight clarification. This is Grant here. Can we sell stored energy to the grid when a price threshold is met, say export when the rate is above 15p?
Yep, you could. So the API exists. That gives you access to the half-hour Agile import rates and the half-hour Agile export rates. And then any of the apps and systems and things that are connected to it might have some sort of logic that's connected to that to say, charge a battery when rate is above 15 pence. We've kind of done that with if this then out a little bit. So there is one of the triggers we've got in there is if a price is above a value, then do something. So in this scenario here, when the rate is above 15 pence, then put energy into a battery. Anybody that gets into the forum will find that we've got a bit of a research project where we're experimenting with that with some other battery systems and things, just to kind of experiment with those sorts of rules and conditions and things.
Got you. And this is back to Agile. Do you have any tips or maybe some technical solutions to get people out of those 4 to 7 p.m. periods?
Look at the discretionary use of energy that's going on. So if you've got a hot water tank, it's with an immersion heater that's probably consuming 5 or 6 kilowatt hours of electricity. It's quite tempting to have the schedule on that, the programmer set to come on at, say, 4 p.m. so that by 7 p.m. it's got enough hot water for children's showers in the evenings and things. And until you realise that Agile is hitting 35 pence, it's probably the wrong time to do it. And with modern hot water tanks, pretty well insulated and only losing a couple of degrees over 24 hours, you might as well be running it at 11 a.m. till, say, 3 p.m. or even to 4 p.m. Because it's interesting, the Agile rate actually drops a little bit between 3 and 4 before it spikes at 4 o'clock. Same with deciding when to run the dishwasher. We put ours on last thing at night. Washing machine on if you're okay with having appliances running overnight, the risk of fire risk, so maybe not a dryer that's high heat and dry items and potential of dust and things. You shouldn't necessarily run a dryer overnight and things. But it's looking at what those discretionary things are that you can use at the best times of day. A bit of planning.
Got you. Perfect. Thank you. And then a question here from Anne. If I export through my FIT meter with Ecotricity, can I export in the same way with Octopus? Or should I just simply stay with Ecotricity? So
the feed-in tariff, FIT, that is the off-gem scheme under which you get payment for generation. So what actually gets generated before considering where it goes. And then you also get a payment for what gets exported. So FIT has generation and export payments. The export tariff that we have, outgoing Octopus, like the Agile export and so on, is the export equivalent of the FIT export. If you want our export tariff, we actually arrange with you and with Ofgem to end the export part of FIT. So you'd still get the FIT generation payment, but you would now replace the FIT export payment with the outgoing export payment. Now, the FIT generation is often the higher payment. So if somebody's got a system from 2011, they might be getting 40 or 50 pence per kilowatt that's generated. But I think the current rate is about 5.5 pence on export for FIT. So you could end that FIT export piece, change to Agile, and be ending the Power 50 rates that's just mentioned a moment ago. But what you can't do is get the FIT export measurement and the outgoing export. So we take customers through that process to ensure that doesn't happen.
Okay, nice. And what do you see with heating in the future? We mentioned sort of electric boilers. There's been discussion in the comments about sort of infrared heating. Do you think that's a thing that's going to take off? What are the other things you see?
Maybe there's a company called NextGen that's got electric wallpaper that I wrote about last year on the blog. Really interesting technology. We've tried it out in our house. Unfortunately, because we rent, I can't install it. So we put it under the rug and used it there. And it works. It's a really interesting technology. I mean, in theory, you need to use less electricity to get the equivalent to a level of heating as you would from a radiator because of the infrared elements in it. Maybe not quite the same COP equivalent as you get from an air source heat pump. So it's hard to say if the electric wallpaper beats heat pumps or not. We've got to see. There are other infrared heating systems like wall panels and things, but I'm kind of not so keen on those because you've got to have the space on the right wall for the wall panel, and how well does it heat just what's facing outwards, not necessarily the whole room, the best place to put it, and what the finish of it is and things. Right. The wallpaper is the one that I'm more interested in. I'm quite excited.
Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting. Yeah, let's have a look into that. What was the name of it again?
NextGen.
NextGen. Okay.
You can put it on the ceiling as well, and that's quite a good place to put it. And where you've got light fittings and light switches, you just cut those out of the wallpaper as long as you don't cut the copper strips that it comes with.
Right.
So it's almost most DIYable install.
Good stuff. So again, if anyone else has got any more questions that you want Phil to answer, then now's the time to chuck them in the comments. One question we've got here: what is the biggest mistake either yourself or Octopus has made at Octopus? It's a difficult one.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't know. I screwed up if this then that over the Christmas holiday. That was a mistake. We moved it from one platform to another because we wanted to better integrate it to some of the other things that we're experimenting with. I kind of had a bit of a go at it because their end of the migration failed, and they didn't really tell me why it failed or what was failing, and it took them a week to fix it. And I kind of think if you told me that it was not going to be smooth, I'd have said, well, let's do it not between Christmas and New Year, but do it when full engineering and resources available. So that was kind of one of my mistakes. But then I kind of wanted to get it done through Christmas and New Year because it's so quiet. I could have the team that are online on my side focused on it without getting distracted by other things that are going on and things. I don't know other mistakes particularly.
Yeah, and what about the biggest success?
So that has to be what Greg's done with the investment, like Origin in Australia and then Tokyo Gas in Japan as well. Some of those two investments are gigantic and incredibly successful for us. And reel off the kind of the deals with Eon or with Good Energy or anyone else that we're licensing the platform to.
Got you. Question: what about the Smart Energy Octopus home management system?
Yeah. So this is something we're experimenting with in the forum that I was mentioning. So this is like I kind of like to call it smart home or home energy management, but rather just smart energy. And the idea there is, if you've got smart tariffs like Agile or whatever, how do you actually get closer to that kind of scenarios we've been talking about with this, if this then that, in how a battery or EV charger or heating works or whatever, or any other appliances that might come along in the future, and how you kind of orchestrate and balance all of those against smart tariffs and things. So there's loads that we've got going on. There's quite a lot of people that are trying that system out at the moment, and probably a lot more that we can do with it. It might break because it is very experimental. I can't guarantee its reliability at the moment, but as a research and innovation, the kind of experimental platform, it's really exciting to be trying those sorts of things out.
Yeah, that's cool. And for those that didn't hear earlier, the Octopus forum, forum.octopus.energy. And if you wanted to gain access to certain areas of that, the developer side of things, you can email tog@octopus.energy, and Phil will pick that up and invite you in. Next question really goes over my head, I must admit. Does Phil think DCP 371, last resort arrangements for distributors to manage specific consumer connected devices, is A, good idea, or B, likely to go ahead?
I can't recall exactly what DCP 371 is, but I think this is the point I was talking about with the meters and mandating the EV chargers to control through the meters and things. And as I was saying, I don't think that's a good idea. I think actually that's too much of a kind of centralized command control sort of approach. This theory that the DCC, the smart meter infrastructure, is a controlling method when it shouldn't be. What's more interesting is how we engage customers with smart tariffs and with technology to make your own choices and take part in the industry rather than forcing things like that.
I quickly Googled it, and that sounds about right. Yeah, the last resort arrangements for distributors to manage specific devices connected.
Yeah, there's a danger that kind of last resort feels like it's the last thing we'll ever do. What you're going to do it before or after a brownout and a blackout? When there's the electricity margin notice, does that mean they're going to use it right then? I don't know. What is last resort? You've got to define that so carefully. It's like a Trojan horse.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Someone's asked why the name Kraken, and then it has, I think, already been asked.
I don't know.
Someone says it's German for octopus.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Coincidence. Yeah. It predates me where the name Kraken came from, so I'm sorry.
That's good. And someone again bringing back to the Home Assistant stuff. I think there's no official Home Assistant integration at the moment.
Not yet, but I'll look at it. Always interested in looking at new things, and I can see in the chat there's quite a lot of pluses going up for Home Assistants. I think we need to.
Yeah. go for that. And I guess the part of the issue is there's lots of different products and services to pick from, trying to find. And I seem to buy one thing, and they're like wanting me to connect my whole house to this one thing. It's like just the light bulbs, and then another product does this. I'm trying to merge them all together. It's a bit of a mess. Yeah.
Well, there's another +1 for Home Assistant.
Yeah, another +1. So someone again asking in the comments about the forum, just email tog@octopus.energy and you can get entered in that way. I don't know if is there any products or things that you don't normally talk about and would like to tell people about, or any cool things that you're working on?
I think everybody's seeing in the forum that there's some pretty cool, interesting stuff that we've got going on. That very, very alpha beta stuff. But I've talked about Voltware. We've talked about smart energy.
What about integrating things like Tesla and My Energy products, which is automated home chargers that can charge either from excess, that sort of stuff?
It may be within the smart energy experimental system. We need to allow somebody to create a plug-in to connect to the unofficial interfaces to Tesla. So just as a kind of if you want to try it here, lock yourself out and have a go as a kind of a plug-in environment. But
so what we need is everyone to tweet Elon and say we need that API, which we've been asking for I don't know, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years.
Exactly.
If you could change one thing about the industry and how it's run, primarily in the UK, what would it be and why?
The point I was making about local energy, the fact that you've got wind generation and solar generation nearby, and being able to take advantage of that to then engage people more in that renewable energy. I think that would be really interesting to do. The slight risk there is that then you've got the kind of the haves and the have-nots. But if as soon as you have a market for anything, and it's not a kind of a homogenous service that you can offer, like people who can't get smart meters because there isn't a WAN and therefore can't get the smart tariffs, what do you do? So we've got to be mindful of that with local type energy solutions. But I'd love to see more local type initiatives, and perhaps making balancing work easier, and that means adjusting some of these transport distribution sorts of charges that I was referring to.
Got you. And so with Brexit recently, we've sort of cut many ties, sadly, with Europe. Do you think the UK can ever be self-sufficient on energy?
Probably not. I mean, energy markets are international worldwide, whether it's, there's stories of gas being shipped to Japan at the moment, which is affecting the gas market. So, the whole of Europe is interconnected. We're connected to Europe. The States is connected to Canada. I don't think you could argue a point to need to be self-sufficient. We're not self-sufficient on food, for example, or other industries. So, no.
Fair enough. I think we're coming to the end of questions, unless anyone's got a new one coming in. We've had quite a few, and thank you for your time on all of these, Phil. Someone's saying your inbox is going to be busy over the next week or two with lots of people emailing.
Cool. I'm afraid I don't have a Tesla. I can see somebody's asked what car I've got. I'm afraid I can't.
Yes, we're going to have to send Phil your referral code for a Tesla. Don't do that. Really. You'll have too many emails. But yeah, so basically, I just wanted to thank you and the Octopus team really for doing things differently, really, because it's really good for our members to be able to ask these questions directly to the people that work on it. And I'm sure it goes without saying that if anyone has an issue or an idea or wants to sort of speak with you directly, then speak on that email address. Make it clear what you want and how you want it. And why you think it's a great idea. That's probably the best information. Just again, reminder that if anyone isn't with Octopus, you can move to them. It's not a sales pitch, but there's a £70 discount code for anyone that moves to dual fuel via the club. So that's an added bonus. We basically pass on that some of that referral money to you. So that's good. Any updates on electric juice? We've briefly talked on it. I think it's ongoing. Is that fair?
Ongoing, yeah. Increasing number of networks, but yeah, ongoing.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. And is the TEP tariff going to continue into the future?
For the moment, yep. There's no changes on that. So anybody that's got, because a lot of renewals are coming up at the moment, Actually, there's a point. Some of the renewals don't show the Tesla plan. If somebody's already on the Tesla plan, drop an email to the talk email address on those ones. We'll make sure it renews properly. But that's just the system tends to try and renew onto the three main tariffs rather than the smart tariffs. So that's by accident, not by design. Yep.
And probably the final question: have you considered partnering with any battery storage companies like Pivot Power, now E.ON?
Not yet, no. And we acquired Upside Energy that gets into the flexibility market, so we might do more through them, but nothing on the horizon at the moment. Well, not that I'm involved in yet.
Perfect. Well, we will leave it there. A big thank you to Phil. And before we go, if I could just remind everyone that our chosen charity for the year is still Mind, the mental health charity. We're all affected by mental health, so take a look on their website. Also, if you have got a few quid, to say thank you to Phil and the rest of the team at Tesla Owners UK for putting on these sort of events, then please chuck a few quid at justgiving.com/Tesla Owners UK. Well, thank you, Phil. What are you off to now? Some dinner?
I can have my dinner, yeah, and see what the children are up to. They've been in the background a little bit, but I hope they haven't disturbed too much.
Hello, children.
They've eaten everything.
Good
it's been
stuff.
a pleasure to be on. I love doing these events. It's really exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a real pleasure for us and our members as well. So if you have been watching, thank you everybody. Get my words out. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next event. We've got loads of more events coming. So take a look at the website or the Facebook group, and we can speak to you soon. Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers, Phil. Bye.